Sarawak is rich in culture, heritage, and beauty. Its people have lived off the land for many generations. From pottery to rhymes, weapons, martial arts, fishery practices, and food preservation, our daily practices in Sarawak have always been part of Sarawakian culture and tradition, regardless of race, ethnicity, and belief. These are some of the things that bind us.
What is the history of Sarawak pottery?
One must be wondering about the history of pottery in Sarawak. It was discovered and excavated at the Sarawak Delta, where most of the shreds have been found since 1948. The shreds are dated from 11th to 13th century AD, and the origin could be traced back to China, Thailand, Vietnam, Japan, and Europe. It is believed that trading activities, which could be recorded back to early 11th century AD. The traders are mainly from China, India, and other neighboring countries coming to Borneo to trade. One of the earliest pottery discoveries was found in Niah Great Cave, Miri. The pottery was found scattered about the whole excavation, but mostly associated with the cemetery. There are other places where these ancient pottery are discovered, such as Santubong, Gua Sireh, and Pulau Burong. In Sarawak, pottery could be divided into two, which are Chinese pottery and Dayak pottery. In Chinese pottery, a wet lump of clay is shaped on the pottery wheel. The Chinese, especially Teochew immigrants, had introduced the art of making pottery in Sarawak in the mid-19th century at Tanah Putih. The first utility wares produced were water jars and cooking pots, but over the years, new items are included, such as smaller water jugs, cooking pots, and flower pots. The primary design is mostly inspired from floral designs and Chinese-inspired designs. Another unique design which was incorporated is the Dayak motif, from floral to longhouse designs which are hand-carved into the hardened clay. The designs on the pottery will be carved out onto the surface and painted after the carving process. After carving and painting, the pot will be placed on the wood to be dried.
Ini macam lukit sebelah ni macam mau 2 jam tu macam lah sama lukit sama keting. Mula-mula bikin pakai plaster. Pakai plaster bikin keluar dia punya santok ini. Sudah keluar dia punya santok ini baru lukit. Sudah lukit sudah okey dia punya design Dayak ni, baru keting. Selepas itu keting itu sudah siap, bikin dia punya cuan sudah siap. Baru tuang tanah, masuk tanah. Dia punya cuan pakai untuk masuk tanah, untuk keluar ini. Untuk keluar lijai ini macam ini, pot ini kecil ini. Betul proses punya tanah, sudah proses. Sudah proses punya tanah untuk masuk cuan lah. Selama ini macam mau 1 jam ini macam 1 hari, 2 hari mau kasih clean dia. Mau kasih jemur clean dia. Sudah clean baru simpan warna. simpan warna balut bakar. Kalau satu barang mok siap ini macam kadang-kadang mok 1 minggu. Satu jenis lah. Tapi dulu dia bikin tuan banyak, dia punya barang keluar banyak loh.
To make the signature glaze of the pottery of calcium carbonate, wood ash, and alluvial sea clay are used. This will be later mixed with natural or mineral powder to avoid fading and cracks after firing.
Pakai tepung dia campur, tepung sendiri. Nanti campur tanah spray dia untuk warna dia apa. Kalau dulu terlalu masak, dia punya warna pandai hilang. Jadi putih-putih itu macam.
The pot will be baked in a kiln called a dragon kiln. The dragon kiln is a traditional wood-fired tunnel kiln which is approximately 25 meters long and could accommodate up to 1,000 pots. The cons of using dragon kilns is that it is tedious because it does not produce uniform heat. Nowadays, potters use gas-fired kilns because it produces uniform heat control.
Mula-mula dia punya panas pelan-pelan naik. Tidak dapat terus saja naik tinggi itu macam. Memang mau pelan-pelan dia punya panas lambat-lambat meningkat.
As for Iban pottery, it is a traditional hand-molded and low-fired pottery. The Iban pottery tends to be small, round, and utilitarian in nature, which is called periuk tanah or periuk tupai. The pots are mainly shaped by using a paddle and anvil method, and these methods are similar to the kelabit and lun bawang.
Iban pottery is a pottery traditionally made during the olden days where there wasn't any cooking utensils. Before there are modern cooking utensils, they use earthen pots to cook their meals. They are just very traditional and simple tools that we can find in the kitchen actually. One is the ladle for scooping out the rice from the pot. It's the same thing that we heat the clay with, and a round pebble, a round stone that we use to make to enlarge the body that we use to heat on it, and it will gradually enlarge the surface of the pots and it become a pot. Let's know that the traditional pots will bring some nutrients in the food that we actually cook with it, and other countries are also trying their very best to make ceramic pots to substitute all the metal utensils we have in the kitchen.
The synonymous motif designs within the Iban community are bungai mata, bungai terung, bungai bintang, bungai segi empat, chevron design, simple incised lines, and V shape. The main technique to shape the pots is pinching before shaping it with a paddle and round stone on the inside of the pots. After shaping the clay, a simpai is placed onto the neck of the mouth to keep the mouth diameter standard sized. Later, the pots will be dried and placed on an open fire. The colors are usually brown or black in color after the pots are baked. Each pot made by the pottery is unique and special in Sarawak. The process of making the pots requires a high level of tolerance and patience. The potters expressed their creativity and passion for making these pottery through unique motif designs, carvings, and shapes.
Because if we do traditional pottery, we have to be constantly making, and we cannot stop, because sometimes you lose your skill. Along the way you will lose your skill if you don't keep on making. And sometimes there are the things that we can make, but this pottery is really dying if you don't do it, and nobody knows about it. I myself proud of what I'm making, and I want people to know that we have our own traditional way of making pottery, the ancient way that we have to be proud of, and everybody should know that we have something which is so beautiful and something that we cannot lose. I'm a Bidayu, and I love clay, making clay work, and I do ceramic, and I know about the Iban pottery, and no one is making. I'm trying my best, but I hope everybody will work together with me to bring up the arts of making pottery the traditional way. We will bind us together, and that should be a community where we all care about what we have in the past, and all the new generations we understand better if they see them and if they can touch it and make it.
Their stories are conveyed through the art of making pottery. The stories and art of pottery making is part of our identity and pride as Sarawakians, which bind us together. These are some of the things that bind us.